Track Fan's lovely horse, always shown a lot of talent. Looking over the PPs, he's always kept excellent company. Pretty amazing that the first time he ever ran in the maiden race here in the fall, 3 of those horses are in this year's Kentucky Derby. I think it speaks proudly of the fields that are assembled here on a daily basis when your first time starting as a maiden and 3 of the horses out of that field end up in the next year's Kentucky Derby. But he's a horse that has had success over the racetrack here at Churchill, I think, and has met many of the participants, as well as, probably the post-time favorite. But I think that he'll compete well. Drawn extremely well for who he is and his style, 12 of 20. Expect him to jump well away from the gates and secure whatever position Joel thinks is best for him to have a good finish, and be extremely exciting.
You've won a lot of races here. Obviously, this one has eluded you.
Yes, it has.
You feel good this week. How are you feeling?
I feel extremely, very good about it. It is impossible not to think back of horses that I expected to win on the day, and it didn't work out for them. But I do believe the Kentucky Derby every once in a while can be a little bit more of an event than a race, and we're just going to have to be the best story one day.
Your son also in the Derby field. What's that like? Competing against each other, but I'm sure you also want him to do well.
Oh, absolutely. A proud parent. I mean, that's the feeling. I expect this of him. He's always excelled, and I think that it's a family thing. Compared to how I felt, younger brother of Cash Asmussen in 1979 when he rode at 17, Cash rode the Derby here, and just how exciting that was for the family. And it's a very similar feeling with Keith riding in the Derby this year.
Did he call you and tell you, like, hey, I got a Derby mount? How'd you find
out?
I
mean, it was watching the finish, being in the Arkansas Derby, watching the finish, and seeing how that horse stepped up at long odds for him. It was, I expected it, being in here, best race he's run figure-wise was for Keith. It would make sense that he would ride him back in the Derby, and he's a horse that obviously has never been faster, and that's a good time for it.
Is it weird balancing that? You want to win, but you want him to do well.
It's completely separate. I mean, as far as a trainer, our responsibilities, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making sure everything's perfect with Track Phantom mentally and physically. And then when they load in the gates, it's out of your hands. I wish them well, but my responsibility is to do the best that I can with Track Phantom, and that's what I'm going to do.
Is there a particular spot you would like to see Track Phantom in the first?
Well, I think that, once the draw comes out, you look at the individual horses and what you expect from them from a pace scenario. And I think with the way that the race is shaken out from a draw standpoint, that Dornach's going to be with Luis Saez. Most would expect for them to be aggressive with him from the inside. They rated him last time in the Bluegrass, and he didn't win doing it that way. So I think that he would go back to being a pace factor here in the Derby. And with him in the 1, us being in the 12, Fierceness, just has got pace. He showed that breaking his maiden, but he's handling well. I would expect them to want a pocket trip with him. Fierceness will look to stay clean. So I think it works out really well with Track Phantom in the way that he has left the gates in his previous races to have a wonderful trip with plenty of space.
Just talk about the quality of the competition down at the fairgrounds to get to this point. It felt like perhaps those prep races down there, kind of brought the talent
Timing wise, they assembled some extremely good fields. I think that the Risen Star moving out the last couple of years, them extending the distance of their Derby preps, Risen Star at 1 1/8 at that time of year, come back with the Louisiana Derby at 3/16. It is just a more natural progression to get us here to the Derby at 1.25 miles. And this year it happened to assemble some very successful horses who have continued to do well and have made it here in good shape. I do believe that the racetrack, the way we've only had 2 days of racing, live days of racing here at Churchill, but it's playing considerably quicker than the fairgrounds play, which I think is a benefit to horses like Track Phantom.